Welcome to the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, discussing all things audiobooks with the authors that write the stories and the narrators that perform them. Brought to you by Viviana, Enchantress of Books.
So there. Oh, okay. So you did not. And I'm also going Zoom. It's not like you don't know people that work in the recording industry to get a better voice than that. But all right.
Right.
I am going to do a quick intro, and then the first question is going to be to tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been narrating, and how you got started, and we go from there.
Okay.
And I just want to make sure that I am pronouncing your name correctly. Cindy K?
Yep.
Okay.
You got it.
Making sure. All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Season 5, Episode 7 of the Audiobook Lovin Podcast. Today, I am chatting with narrator Cindy K. Welcome to the podcast, Cindy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to chat with you. Also, congratulations on the Sultry Listener Award nominations that you've gotten.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, there's so many. There's so many incredible people listed there. I'm kind of, just anything. Yeah, if I could be included, great. Yay. Thank you.
Well, it's the fans nominate you guys. So it's one of those, someone loves on you and there your name gets there. You're like, yeah, it is nice. Yeah. I wanted to say congratulations on that. Let's start by having you tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been narrating and how you got started.
I started maybe getting interested in like 2017, threw myself in total 100% acting, when signed up for acting classes like immediately is the very first thing, and then started getting coaching, blah, blah, blah. So got lucky enough to get full-time in 2019. And so I've been doing it since then. So yeah.
So yeah, you have like 200 plus books at this point.
Yeah, actually I just hit, with the pseudonym and blah, blah, I think it's about 312.
Nice.
Yeah. Even though it's kind of annoying that, it's only listed on one name on Audible. So it's like never quite looks as high as it is. So I'm like, God damn it. Okay.
Well, even then because sometimes you have pre-orders that are listed, but you also recorded books that have yet to even be either published or listed up for pre-order. So you've had more books.
That's true.
So
that's
it's
true.
like,
that's true. I didn't think about those.
And we usually use Audible as the counting, the thing for us, right? As how many tops. So I hear your frustration. I think I had someone was going, hey, you're reaching about 500 soon. Are you going to do anything? And he goes, woman, I've had 500 for the past 6 months. They just haven't released yet. I'm like, damn it. Sorry.
Right. I mean, it shouldn't mean anything except for like a little gold star, but I'm like, yay, this one's coming out. But yeah.
It's in a world where a lot of things don't matter, but it's also a celebration of the work that you've done, right? And whether it's one book or 500, you're going towards something and you're doing this work. And so it needs to be celebrated. So, that's good.
Thank you.
Yeah. So if you just started narrating and you just did one book, yay for you. Now let's go to the next one. Totally. If you're still into it, fascinating. Great. Let's go to the next one.
Right. Yeah. And they're all, the whole journey's been it's been so exciting. So it's just, it is nice to celebrate little milestones.
Mm-hmm. And you also narrate in different genres. So how did that come into, what made you decide to, kind of want to say jump around, but not really. I mean, it's not really like you're jumping. It's just that you're, was that something that you were strategically planning on doing different genres, or was it one of those like, oh, that sounds interesting, audition?
No, I think somebody told me very wisely that, that you don't really need to pick a niche going in, because you don't really know what you're a good fit for or what other people will like to hear you in. So just audition your ass off and see what you get hired for, and boom, there's your niche. So other, listeners and producers, casting directors will tell you don't really need to pick, because, just like in dating, if you married the very first person you dated, yeesh, that might not work out so well.
Right?
So like if I went in and just like picked the very first one that I was interested in, I probably would have picked very badly. And, so it's just nice to trust people who, trust the professionals to know what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
But with also being said that in that you do have, and you have a pseudonym, and I know sometimes the narrators are either open about it and they're like, oh yeah, I also narrate under XYZ, and others are like, yeah, I have another name, and then silence. Which is like, okay, we're not going there. And there's various reasons why people would use a pen name / pseudonym with no real need to justify it. We just, as listeners, as readers, we just have to respect that. So when it comes down to you and your pseudonym and the auditions, are you thinking about like which name to use? Are they coming to you and saying, hey, is this going to be a Cindy title? Is this going to be another title? How do you work with that?
I'm actually kind of only starting a little bit with the pseudonym, and it's really only more for like a dark romance, like more heavier erotica stuff like that. And it's really more just to kind of separate it from a lot of the other stuff I do, just mainly keeping listeners in mind, so that when they're looking for like, hey, let's bring my 8-year-old daughter here to Audible and let's look up appropriate books. Oh God, not that one. Oops, sorry. It's like just kind of keeping things a little bit friendlier for different audiences. Yeah. And I can't really decide. Before I was in this, I was in teaching for like eons. And so that was another reason, because, Lord knows you don't need your students coming to you.
Yeah. I mean, right now that's been a conversation, because we all read, so maybe not all of us, but I know I was reading adult romance books, Harlequin, when I was in high school, but that's because they didn't, YA didn't exist back then. It was only like middle grade. So you jump from middle grade to full blown adults in as far as literature goes, and YA wasn't really a category at the time. But then again, I said it was Harlequin. And back in the day, it wasn't as...
that was YA.
That was YA. It was like, a lot of it was behind closed doors. A lot of times it was like, hey, what are they doing back there? You're like, don't want to know.
Right.
And things like that. And now... Haunting Adeline is being read in middle school. And you're like, no. And I'm like, that's not age appropriate. I was reading adult books in high school, but there was a difference. So I can totally understand wanting to differentiate the work as far as the difference potential of whether it's the violence or the steamy behind the scenes and not so in behind the scenes.
Right.
Yeah. So it's just, is that something that not, because again, I know sometimes you guys are open about it, other times you're not. Have you, since you're new in that journey, have you figured out what you're doing with your pseudonym as of right now? Or
no, I haven't. So I guess maybe I won't say right now, but but
I wasn't going to ask.
but I don't really know yet, but I'm sure, it's kind of an inevitability that it'll get out eventually, but it's also not a big deal to me. So I haven't decided. I don't know what I feel about it yet.
Yeah. And that's not anything that needs to be decided right now. I think that sometimes when I've spoken to listeners and readers, most of the rationale behind wanting to know is because they love how you narrate and they just want more books. And their whole thing is that. And that's usually the intent behind it, which is great for you guys. Unfortunately, there's also those individuals that are like, they want to be more of the, I know who that is. I know who that person is. And it becomes a wanting up of everybody else. And I'm like, sit down and shut up.
Right.
Please.
Right. There are children present.
Well, again, it doesn't, the reason behind it shouldn't matter to us as the listeners and the readers.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Because if I come out right now as, everyone knows me as Viviana, if I come out tomorrow with wanting to call Margaret for whatever the reason, it should be respected.
Right. That's a great point.
And I shouldn't have to explain myself why I want.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm stealing it. I like it.
By all means. Yeah. So because you've narrated in different genres, from mystery to romance, you've run the gamut and a lot of stuff. I'm going to ask, is there a favorite that you like to narrate? There
isn't. And I feel this one of the producers that I was talking to was laughing at me because I said that I was a book whore, basically. And I'm just interested in all of it. I'm kind of in love with all of it. And it's hard to pick a child, So I just, I don't think I could pick a genre. What I do like is the variety. So sometimes I like mixing up, doing, a week of nonfiction followed by a light rom-com, followed by a mystery, So I just like the variety. I think what I wouldn't really be so into is, 3 months of one genre. That might be a little bit grating.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing with romance is there is so many subgenres within that genre itself. So even if you were doing 3 months of romance, for an example, one day, 1 week could be romantic comedy, then you have your shifters, and then you have your sci-fi, or you have your YAs, your appropriate
That's
YAs.
a good point. Yeah. I mean, romance is its own whole gigantic genre. So So good point. Yeah. So that's one.
Yeah. But I can totally understand not wanting to be stuck, doing a medical memoir or something like that for a week. Oh yeah. Or politics. I'm like, no, I need to stabby something. Give me a mystery.
Right.
Give me a whodunit because I'm about to.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. How am I supposed to keep my emotional balance without this variety?
Yes. And a lot of you guys have said that. A lot of you guys have mentioned the balancing act when it comes down to these performances, because this is what I feel like what you guys do is a performance. And when you are performing it, you're having to be in this mindset, whether it's that emotional scene or that fun lovey-dovey one or that monotonous medical memoir that you're recording. You're in a mindset of sorts. And it's important to have that variety and be able to get out of it. Otherwise, it can be very dark and lonely, aside from being in the booth. Because you guys have described that as well as dark and lonely. And I'm like, y'all can put some lights in there,
Right. Yeah. And just kind of living for the author's words, Sometimes the lines or the moments, or the scenes are just, you just kind of get in that lovely book stoner haze, afterwards. It's like,
well, beautiful. You want to bring truth to the work that they've done. And especially on those emotional scenes, whether it's the heroine getting over someone and finalizing her own power, or that moment where the bantering becomes that steaminess, like I'm just going to grab you up against the wall.
Ooh, right.
Or you keep talking, I'm going to throw this frying pan at you. I don't care if it's supposed to be a romantic comedy.
Right. But in a sexy way.
Right? Well, I'm sure that's when it becomes a romantic suspense, because now he's being attacked by a weapon, but he thinks it's hot.
Right.
Yeah. Riley Edwards always cracks up when I'm like, so where do you make it go kaboom now after they're making out? She writes romantic suspense.
Right.
Because you've narrated also so many genres and you don't have so much of a favorite, but is there one that you have yet to narrate in that you're like, ooh, I can't wait to get into that?
Oh God, good question. I think I've always loved cozy mysteries, and I know it's kind of a some people love it, some people hate it, but it's always kind of just a comfort read, and it's always really lovely. So those I do love. I have done a few, but they're not a ton. I love bantery rom-coms, just the banter. I love that. And I have done those, but more is always welcome. I don't think there's an upper limit for that. I think a little while ago I would have said horror because I'm just chicken and I just can't, I need to sleep, and horror is not conducive. But I tried it maybe a year and a half ago or a year ago or something. And it totally opened all of these doors. And I loved the story. And I think it was because I realized there's a difference between like zombies or like scary things that are happening outside of the main character. So you can go, it's you against them or you and your gang against them, versus like ghosts or like emotional, like beings living in your head. Like, I'm not sure I could do that.
Yeah. Funny enough, a lot of the romance authors that I've spoken with in the years, I've asked that question, like if there's a genre that you haven't written that you'd like to, a lot of them are going to horror, and I'm like, who hurt you?
Some of it is pretty awesome.
Yes, cathartic in some cases, but that's also been the conversation where I think a lot of times nowadays when people say horror, you're automatically thinking about guts bursting, blood throwing everywhere, very gory,
right?
Like visually gory, icky, no kind of things. And there's an emotional, psychological thing to horror when it's done right too. That you're trying to figure out what that looks like and how scary it can be to just be in your own head.
Right. Yeah. So I think that one is has a lot of promise for me anyway. I'm just curious about it. So yeah.
Well, guys, you heard it here now. She's interested in doing some horror, so hook a girl up.
But also Bantry rom-com.
Yes,
Bantry rom-com horror. Yeah.
Yes. You know what? There's probably an author going, I think I can do that. And why not? Yeah. I mean, there's got to be something in there. I mean, recently, I think there was a book that came out which was a dark romance. And it was one of those where he's a killer, but she's also a killer. So they're going on a killing spree together. And you're going, oh, how romantic.
I think I just read one like that. They're kind of fun. I mean, you read it and then, you get out of the booth and you're like, okay, do I need help? Do I need a rest? But it's weirdly fun.
Yeah. In this case, the narrator sounded like they were having way too much fun, which made me want. It's not something that I normally would have picked up, but they were having so much fun performing it. I was like, oh, what are y'all talking about? And so I was like, added it to my cart. So you guys, how you guys perform are can be telling a lot of times. I can, at least for me, I know when you guys seem to be having fun versus, oh, look, it's just another book. There's just something. Well, the saying, oh, there was a sparkle in the eye, or you can hear the smile through the phone. I think that that's one of those things sometimes that I hear when you guys are narrating that, that I'm going, oh, they really did have a lot of fun with that one, whether it's a scene or something else.
Yeah, I think I was on a plane once and I saw my first episode of Dexter. I think it was the reboot. I guess it went away for a little bit and then came back. And, it was never a show that I would have watched before because, murder, killing, blah, blah. But I enjoyed it so much that I was like, okay, is this a commentary on something? Should I be learning something from this?
As the girl that was born and raised in Miami, Florida, where the show takes place in Dexter, it was very interesting because there was a lot, again, not my scene usually. I mean, I like a good detective and things like that. This was very much a detective police kind of show, but with the fact that they were also the murderer. And it became a bit about like, oh, I know where that place is. Like, yeah, I'm not surprised that one got killed there. And others are like, yeah, you want to get rid of a body? Go into the canal, get rid of it in the with the alligators. People use farms for pigs. We have alligators for that reason. But it's definitely that was a good show because I think it made you question it. It made you question if he was really the bad guy or not, based on how he was justifying his killings. Right.
Yeah. And it would put me in an uncomfortable, hey, this is kind of cathartic.
Yeah.
Is it supposed to be cathartic?
Yeah, you're going, I would have done it too, but not really in case anybody's listening to these conversations.
No, you would never.
Yes,
officially.
Exactly. No. Not like I have a list of people. No. Anyways.
But don't look at your phone.
Yeah,
not the notes section.
Not the notes section. No, from watching that show, I know how to keep them. Anyways.
That's true. Moving on.
Yes, it was a good show. But I did love in that show specifically that it was based in Miami. They did a really good job with the ethnicity in it, and showing the diversification of what a full cast would be like, and you know, how that works in that particular show. Because again, in Miami, we have people that have blue eyes and blonde hair and are from, you know, fill in the blank, in South America. And then we have folks that people are like, oh yeah, they're Cuban and they speak better English than you and I do. So it's just one of those things. Or like myself, they're like, oh, you're Latina. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to kill the Spanish language if we start talking. I can tell you where the bathroom is. And so that's one of the shows that I think also was having that conversation about the importance of diversifying and diversity and inclusion when it came down to the characters, and not typecasting either. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, like having true inclusivity and having those like deeper conversations, not just, you know, okay, they're in the shot, okay,
or oh look, the Latina's the gangster again, great,
right? Oh look, they get killed in the first 5 minutes. All right,
yes. Oh look, yes, right, okay. Of course, they own the Thai restaurant. They're not going to be the scientist or anything like that. No, yeah,
right. So I love that more shows are doing that.
Yes. But I also love that audiobooks are starting to be a lot more inclusive, not only the from a casting perspective, but also the writing of the stories. And we're having a lot of more diversity in the author world, where they're writing the stories and being inclusive and showcasing not only just the bad stuff, because that's always, I think everyone automatically goes to that. Like, oh, look, you're Mexican. Does that mean you're a gangster? No, shut the fuck up.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Or all this
deep sigh.
Right?
No.
No. Or also, oh, you're Latin, you're Mexican. No, I'm not. Okay. Right. And things like that. And you know, your background is also very, you know, because you have Chinese and Thai and American, you said in your bio. How does that for you? What are your feelings on, because there's a lot of conversation right now happening with casting and audiobooks, and should it matter because of the voice, not like in front of the camera? And should you be voicing if you're not, all that? And like, what are your thoughts as someone from the community?
I love that there's more attention paid to things like that. And I think it brings a more nuanced experience to the listeners, I would hope. Even in things like comedy, or like, you know, the timing of a joke, or like words that, you know, in a context, if you are from the culture, you know what this whole situation, really this whole scene just feels really familiar. And so you're able to convey that more versus, you know, granted there's, you know, you're doing the whole book, or you're doing, you know, half if it's, you know, shared with somebody. But, you know, there's always somebody, you know, some guy cowboy from, you know, whatever, Louisiana that I'm supposed to do too, you know, so, you know, I'm not that, but, you know, so you've got to do your best, and there's kind of give and take. But like for the main characters and the supporting characters, like I love that there's more authenticity and more truer stories being told. But also I love that listeners, audiobook listeners or hard copy book readers are just more interested in hearing about other people's experiences and lives. And I love seeing like on bestseller lists, like a lot more diversity in you know, as it goes up, like it's kind of creeping everywhere. It's not, hopefully anyway, not just people who are really paying attention to it, you know, and you know, are having to go out and seek it, but it's everybody, hopefully, or closer, you know.
Yeah, I think it's I think you have to seek it, at least if from a business perspective. As a reader, for example, as a reader, I think the conversation has been, oh, you should. Yeah, you know what? If you want to diversify your reading and you want to learn, you know, do different things, that's okay. And it's okay if you don't want to. I'm not going to cancel or crucify you in however way, shape, or form, because you opt to not read in fill in the blank culture. Right. Or ethnicity or language or things like that. But from a business perspective, now, if you're the author, who you are as the business, then you're wondering what you want to write about that, and that's not your culture, do your research, baby. Do the homework and go for it. Again, I'm not going to cancel you. I'm not going to crucify you or say, no, you shouldn't, because you're not, you want to write your heroine to be Latina. Okay, great. Go for it. I would love to read it, but just do your homework. You know, Add in how the mom uses Vicks for every cure. You know?
Right.
You
know? But yeah, like you said earlier, like being honestly, like asking the hard questions and being respectful.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not just the mom with her Vicks, but it's, you know, she's got this whole backstory.
Right.
You know, and she's like a person, you know?
Yeah. Or also the fact that that daughter, who's the heroine, is the first generation American, doesn't necessarily have an accent. I know I have one. People are trying to figure out what it is and go, I'm from Florida. That's what that is.
It's called Florida.
It's called Florida, Miami, Florida, you know, where it's and being bilingual. And it's just one of those things. But so don't automatically assume that a first generation American child is going to have that accent either. So again, it's a lot about that research, but also again, I'm not going to crucify someone that's not, unless they didn't do the research. Then that's a different conversation. But also as a business, I think recently one of the conversations was like Goodreads. They had all their 2023 best titles. And no diversity, not one. And I'm going, who in your team should get fired?
Right.
Because people are watching.
That's a great point. Yeah, because now you're on a huge public forum. Let's think more carefully about some of these things.
And be conscious about it and be aware of it. Like if you're having an event, what does your signing authors and narrators, you know, what is that looking like for you right now? And and it's okay that if you happen to have it, but if you're purposely not trying to make sure that the mix is nice in there, because you got to add some seasoning spice to things.
Right.
I mean, there's an entire meme and, you know, things on TikTok about, unfortunately, you know, you're not ethnic background if your chicken looks like white. And then I also have a lot of friends that are completely white American, like multi-generation. They're like, Viviana, I'm like, listen, I know it's not you. You know how to cook, but that's still funny.
Right. Yeah, and it's like a lot of those, like the dieting programs, those kinds of apps, like I can never do because none of them include spice, as far as I could tell.
Oh yeah. Or my favorite, they're like, yeah, you need to lower your sodium. I don't need any of this. Me neither. You know, you need to lower your sodium. I'm like, okay, but where's the spice? And I'm like, there's nothing. I'm like, oh, yeah, I hear you.
Let me type in flavor.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's important to have that conversation. And when I've had it with other individuals that are in ethnic groups, the conversation with the narrators, well, I don't want to be typecast. I don't ever want to be the guy or the girl that only voices within my own community in a specific genre because of that. You know, I'm like, well, that's true too.
Yeah, that is totally true. Yeah. I do think, I mean, knock on wood, I do seem to see like the people that I'm following, women of color, people of color, it does seem like there's variety, like there's not, or maybe I'm not noticing it. I don't know. I hope that's not the case, but it doesn't seem like people are being typecast and that casting directors are doing a really nice job of going, that voice fits for this, not that actor and, you know, his eyebrows fit for the, you know, like they're not really looking at like how you look. So I would hope that that's the case. And I hope I'm saying that right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's been going well.
Yeah.
I think it's been going well in a lot of things. Yeah. And people have been, if it wasn't going well and it was addressed or brought to their attention, people have been looking into it and educating themselves and learning and going into that, you know, path of the correct way, you know, of being more inclusive with everybody and everything. So that's the thing I'm seeing, that again, one of the many reasons why I love the romance community is the ability to have the conversations and learn. Unfortunately, we do live in this world recently where everything, it seems to be, oh, you don't agree with me, I'm going to cancel your ass. And I'm like, sit down.
Yeah.
You don't have to cancel.
Let's like take a breath.
Yeah. People make mistakes, you know, and people need to learn, and they're not going to learn if you're going to crucify everybody every time someone makes a mistake. They're going to, you know, try to keep things in secret versus having the dialogue. Now, if you were told and you kept on doing this stupid shit, that's a different conversation. Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm finding that when I look at these, whether it's the annual lists or the, hey, what are you reading right now? I'm seeing so many more diversity in these books, whether it's the characters or the even like, oh, look, it doesn't take place in New York. Yay. I love New York. But I'm like, you do know that there's other cities in this 50 states, right?
Right. A lot of really great ones. And
really?
it's not just for the the winter romance when you go back home and, fall in love, which is also great, but it doesn't have to be, that's not the only option.
I'm like, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind going. I mean, like a great Christmas, novella. Oh, look, Vermont, because there's snow. But I mean, there's other places.
There are many other places that have snow.
Right. Or don't have
lumberjacks
to do with winter.
Live everywhere.
Yes, right. Yes. Or us Southern girls that don't get snow because of where we live. We still have something called winter.
Right. Right.
Like, who's going to write that story that the guy that loves snow and winter and gets stuck in Florida for Christmas?
That would be hilarious. That would be awesome.
Yeah, someone needs to write that. They're like grumpy because they're not with the snow. I'm like, yeah. Anyway.
we all love a grumpy band, right?
Right? Yeah, the banter for that one's always great too. Mr. Sunshines and all that fun stuff. It's like, okay. Yeah. And I know someone's listening to this and saying, thanks for the idea, Viv. I get stuck in Florida. I love snow. Wrong place. Sorry. Yeah. What is it that you love, actually? What is it about audiobooks that you love so much?
I think just the depth that you're able to get into it, because as just like a recreational reader, I skim like crazy, so I just go through, especially if they were like long, 19th century novels, skim, all the details, everything, skim. But like when you're doing an audiobook, you get to like get in the weeds and get in the dirt and kind of, roll around it in a little bit and just like, the depth of it. So then it kind of feels like the characters or these moments or scenes like stick with me for like years later. And it's a really nice feeling. You go, oh yeah, I actually got to know that person. So, I think that's what I love about it, is just kind of getting in there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially like you were saying, the able to skip when it's either ebook or paper, you can kind of skip and then go, oh, went too far, 2 pages. Can't really do that with an audiobook.
That is true. I mean, you could fall asleep and then just go, screw it.
You could. And I know some folks speed up the book for their own reasons. I'm like, okay, but there's always a conversation if that's okay or not. Hey, you do you, boo. But there's been many books that I probably would not have read, not because they weren't good, but they were really long and big. And like the Discovery of Witches is one of my favorite books, and it takes place, a lot of it, in France. And so if I was eyeball reading that stuff, I'd probably be like, and then they went to the chalet. And
exactly.
Then they went to the sounds like so French something, But listening to the audiobook, I was like, oh, that's how you pronounce that. Got it. Okay, thank you.
Right. Yeah. And it forces you to slow down. I think one of the first audiobooks I listened to, it was like a bazillion years ago, was a historical fiction. And I think it was about Catherine the Great or Josephine, who was with Napoleon, something like that. But it was a book that I never would have picked up regularly. It would just happen to be one of the biggest choices on the library shelves at the time. And so I got it, and I was like riveted. And I remember thinking that there were these passages like, oh, if this were in print, I would have skipped it. But because the narrator was taking us through so nicely that she really just painted this whole world. And it was amazing, because she kind of forced you to sit down and go, look around you here, appreciate this, and it was, it was beautiful. So I think that's what I like about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially sometimes one of those scenes where the character is going through something, like walking through a field or down a small town, and they're describing every single rock and color minutia kind of thing. and you're going, really, why? And you're going, when does it stop?
Skip.
Right, because it's to describe, okay, great, there's flowers, they're wonderful, they're great, but why? But then, because it's JR Award or one of those books, and I love her and her writing, but she's very descriptive sometimes, and it was one of those not her paranormal ones, and I'm like, is this an audio? Oh, thank you, it is an audio, great. But then I'm listening to that same exact scene that I was like, really, it's just a flower, and coming from the headspace of the fact that she's a gardener. And she's coming back to this place where her father used to work, and the emotions are there. Now I understand why they're describing every single thing in the way that they're doing it. It's an emotional attachment that they have. Not me as the reader.
Right. But now you totally get it more than, had I been, my crappy old 8th grade self reader just going, skip.
Yeah. I'm like, what happens at the end? Okay, like, okay, great. It's definitely, you guys provide that emotion that sometimes we might miss because we may not be in that mindset, or we don't understand because we've never fill in the blank felt that way.
Right.
It's definitely one of those when people talk about the whole AI thing, and I'm like, yeah, let me tell you about that.
Right. Have you never taken a professional development AI course? I mean, geez. Skip. I mean, talk about, that's when I try to multitask and do everything else.
As the girl that used to have to sit in her HR, because I worked for the Walt Disney World Company for 16 years in HR. So talk about corporate Fortune 500 there. And every year we would have to do these re-educating ourselves all the rules that we ourselves wrote. And I'm also thinking, this lecture would be significantly more interesting if Sebastian York was reading it.
Hello, yes. Can I sign up for your HR professional development course, please?
Right? Or like if Carolyn Gella was reading this, would it be significantly more entertaining versus whatever AI that they at the time? And I get it that there's a place for it, and maybe corporate America would be it. But when I want emotion evoked, and I want to, if the heroine is bantering with the hero because he is not dicing the potatoes the way that she wants him to, or he's ignoring her feelings, fill in the blank, whatever the argument is, or they're in love, and they're having that moment of like, yes, you are it. I want human emotion.
Right.
I want human voice.
Yeah, and I would almost argue that those corporate HR thingies would do well to have humans on there because coming out of those, the sexual harassment seminars, or like, some of those other, how to ethical behavior in your business seminars, and then being a listener and going, okay, what this is telling me is that this is unimportant to you, and I should go multitask, and I'll just speed through these modules as quickly as possible. So the message is, this is boring and worthless. So then, is sexual harassment, does that need that message anymore? I think no.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're 100% right in there. I mean, I remember now it was, they did this new thing with training, and I was like, who is the voice person that did this? Because they need to be doing audiobooks. I want to catch them. I did so much work. I got great. How do I find out who this person was? And they did such a great job in
and you remember.
Yes. And I'm like, it was some of the script was written well too for it. That's the other thing too. Again, this is where the authors, writers are so important, whether it is a movie, a book, or a script, when it came down to something that's training that people are going to have to worry about and do, and make sure that, intellectual property isn't stolen and things like that too, sexual harassment. These writing, the writers are important. And then who then is going to show that message across. But that was, you should have seen me. I was like, okay, guys, I need to know.
You're stalking this. Who is the voice for?
Want to know who the voice is. Well, then also not it's not like you're in the, like I was one time I was in the hospital for myself. I was like, great. And I'm hearing a commercial and I'm like, oh, I know that voice. And sure enough, it was with a narrator that they were doing it commercial for Disney. And I'm like, I know that voice. I know who that is.
Oh, cool.
So there's moments where I'm like, oh, I know who that is. And the times I'm like, I need to know. because, you know,
that is super cool.
I want more. But yeah, it is. It's great. I mean, you guys, it's only been recently that you guys have been more in the public eye per se, right? It used to be a couple of years ago where we were, oh, great, audiobooks. Okay, I'm going to get in books on tape. And that was it. That was the conversation. It wasn't about how awesome the performance was, or it wasn't about, oh my God, Cindy, I just discovered this new narrator. Her name is Cindy K. What else can I devour from about them? So it's still a very relatively new thought process for fans and companies and everybody to be like, oh, you guys exist. But you're also human and y'all have feelings and y'all have, you know, importance in performance and things like that. Where before it used to be, like I said, oh, nonchalant kind of a thing. Like, oh yeah, I listened to the book by, so I don't know who the narrator was. Now it's like, Cindy, did you hear Cindy in this book? Oh my God. and also the fact that we could send you a note going, Cindy, that scene. Oh my God, was it as much fun for you as it was me listening to it, you know?
I do love that. Like DMs from people, nice DMs from people.
I love how she clarifies that. Nice DMs from people.
But are like, yeah, they totally make my day, because it's not like, you know, it's not like, you know, some celebrity with like 1 million followers or something. It's not like, maybe other people are getting a gazillion messages, but I don't get too many. So like the ones I do get, I'm like, yay, sparkles for everyone.
Yeah. I mean, I still get excited when I send out an email like, hey, do you want to be my guest? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, okay, good. You really? Okay, great. Thanks. And, you know, 10 years later, I'm still doing that. And I still have that feeling. So I think that
so cool.
It is. It really is. And I love it when the fact that when you guys have that ability to be on social, and not saying that y'all have to, in case you're listening to this and you're going, I don't have a social. It's okay if you don't. It's okay. It's okay. But it's also able that it's nice to it. With that said, though, I know that I make the example about, did you have as much fun in that scene as it sounded like it? What is your favorite type of scene to perform?
Let me see. I do love the banter. I do love, I think just usually whatever the main character just flipping out and getting, you know, really, you know, they're about to murder somebody or they want to murder somebody. And they're just, you know, letting it all out, or, you know, these like deep, emotional, heartfelt ones. I think maybe just the emotional extremes, I think, are just really fun.
So if anyone's writing a bipolar character, that 1 minute is like, I hate you. The next minute, but I really do love you. But then again, that might be, could be any one of us any moment.
Right. But that's the thing, though, is that, you know, we're all kind of conditioned. Maybe this is a North American thing. Is this just please tell me it's not just my family thing, but that you're supposed to be even keeled, and like even keeled is good, you know, but you've got all this crap, you know, underneath, and sometimes it feels good to say, you know, I want to punch that tree, and I'm going to go and just, you know, go to a boxing class, or just, you know, lie down on the floor and scream and cry. Sometimes we need this. So it's just, it feels a little bit more honest.
Yeah, and genuine and authentic. And I think that that's also part of the conversation that we're having as human beings, is realizing that when it comes down to different cultures and backgrounds and ethnicities, we all have different upbringings. And my upbringing as a Latina in Miami is completely different than an upbringing of someone that's also Latina in you know, Colombia, or that of you of, you know, Thai Chinese descendancy, but also being Thai and Chinese. I mean, and also people thinking like, oh, so you're Latin, so you're like, listen, my mom was from Chile. My dad was from Cuba, and my grandmother was Argentinian, and all three of them were in my house. And I'm right. And I'm like, so there's different dialects, different, you know, all sorts of different things.
Sensibilities, right.
Yes. And how we behave, and generational too.
Totally.
And if we had a grandparent living with us at the time and things like that, and how we grew up with that. And it's just so many different things that I know right now people like on TikTok are like, oh yeah, I have generational trauma. And I'm trying to be like, I wasn't abused or anything like that. And then I see the examples. I'm like, oh, telling me to suck it up, buttercup. Yeah. Or not expressing myself emotionally. Oh, that's what that's. Oh, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, totally.
And
totally.
so it's not just you.
Thank you.
It's a generational / being,
these realizations. Yeah.
And even now, I think there's also, again, and it sucks that I'm kind of mentioning it again, but TikTok, I found that there's actually a psychologist on TikTok that is for first generation Americans, for children of immigrants, basically. Even if you were born somewhere else, but you migrated into because it's been found, study shows that children of immigrants have had a different upbringing than those of born and raised in the exact same location. So this could also mean that it could be that your family immigrated from here to France. You're still a child of immigrants and stuff like that. I think sometimes people automatically think it's just coming into it, but I was very Americanized in my household. There was Spanish inside, English outside, and culturally, I can tell you about food, but that's about it. And I think a lot of times people have this misconception of like, I'm supposed to be more aware of that or not. So I'm not Latin enough and I'm not American enough. And that's very weird to be stuck in there.
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah.
So that's one of those things when we see and having those comments like, is it just me? No, it's not just you, girl.
Right. Yeah. That's nice that the mental health community is kind of like opening up to that, because that totally makes sense.
Yeah. Well, it's like you're going because again, good upbringing, good, 2-family household and stuff like that. And you're going, I wasn't traumatic, and then they give you like, oh, well, maybe, but that
actually is trauma.
Yeah, but maybe not like in such a negative, like abusive way. It's still trauma, but we're still trying to figure out what that looks like.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I remember for a long time I was like, I can't do like therapy. I can't do stuff like that because it feels very Western to me sometimes, very often, where it's like, and maybe it's like my upbringing, but I'm like, you know what? Sometimes not talking about it is the solution. I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, right. And you're going, that's going to work. Not.
I know. I'm like, maybe there's something to consider. So I feel like maybe there's like a little bit, I need a shallower ramp to get there.
Well, I remember sometimes, like even comfort food sometimes, like when people are like, oh, what's your comfort food? People are like burgers, meatloaf. And I'm like, rice and eggs. They're like, what do you mean rice? And I'm like, like boiled, you get your rice, or you can also do mashed potatoes and fry an egg and stick it on top of it and just crack the yolk and there you go. And they're like, they look at, right? And they're looking at me like, you poor thing. Like I'm like, no, that's delicious. That's
you don't understand the steamy hot right out of the thing rice with like, for me, it's like a fried egg with a little bit of fish sauce on rice.
See, I would have never thought to add the fish sauce on it, but culturally, you got, it's ethnicity. That is definitely something that you guys would do. Like, I also know some people Americans that put ketchup in rice. I'm going, why?
Yeah.
We all have our own biases.
But totally.
See, so you know about the rice and the eggs. Yay.
Yeah, there is a comfort. That's a strong thing.
Right? And now I don't feel weird about mentioning stuff. I'm like, well, Cindy knows about it.
See, we validated each other.
Yes, exactly. So when you're not working and maybe cooking up dinner like this with fried rice and with rice and fried eggs, what do you not working? What do you do for fun?
My favorite like weekly thing is to go for a long ass walk across town, get something to eat with my family, and then walk it off back. So it's just like just walk and eat and spend time with people
that you like.
That's my favorite thing. Yeah,
that is nice.
Friends and food is pretty much the best.
Yeah. Definitely. What's your favorite word?
Oh God.
Not a curse word, because that's the second part of my question for it. I always speculate that because they're like,
My favorite word, I have no idea. I think yesterday, or the day before, I think the word audacity came up, and I was like, that is a great word. That is a hilarious word.
Just how you pronounce it, like, he has some audacity, but the audacity, Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your favorite curse word?
Oh, I have many. I think, so I live in Utah. So I felt like before I moved here, I felt like I had to clean up my language, and then it did not work and it backfired. And because I was having, all this, then if you don't let it out, you just have this like pent up anger, and it just like, it's unhealthy. So I think at the time when it was backfired, it was my go-tos were Jesus fucking Christ and oh my fucking God.
Nice combination.
They're nice. They cover a lot.
Yeah, definitely. See, and so is there any specific curse words in entire Chinese that you like? Because I know there's some in Spanish for me that I'm like, oh, if you hear me saying some of those words, you're in trouble.
There are, but usually it was one of my parents saying it, probably at us, But it's not something that they're not words that I usually use, just because I'm more used to the English. But like, I always find it like hilarious, or usually hilarious when I say it.
It's true. There's always some words that I'm going, we have them too. And if we were to translate them, it just makes no sense.
Like makes absolutely no sense.
No sense. Like in Cuba, when you like something pisses you off, the me cago en 10, which is I shit on 10. I don't know why. You don't know why. I don't know why.
Right. And plus, the curse words across cultures are not, they're not like in an equal relationship. Like sometimes there are words that like cross like shit and fuck, or like damn and shit, or, whatever. So like they like embody a different headspace or different feeling.
Yes. And the different levels, like you're sort of pissed off. And then if you use this other word, then you're like, oh, she really getting pissed off. And then the other word comes out and you're like, oh, you need to run. But that's the same thing, like even when expressing love, in the, like that love emotion or that caring emotion, there's only so many different words. Us Latins like to give different levels.
Right. Or just like how different cultures flirt or their banter, where you have words. I don't know if there's a word in English where you have just had it with somebody, except that you like them. They have just like hit your limit. And so, you want to kill them and you're telling them that you want to kill them, but, really it's not.
There's not that. It's that you.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I don't think in English it's like that, but I remember something like that in Spanish too, where it's just like, I just can't with you anymore. I just can't. And it's not in I'm upset with you. I want to off you. It's just like, I can't with you because I love you so much, and it's just like, okay.
I love you, but get out of my face at this moment.
Yep. There's a few of those. That's for sure. My favorite too is like, when you're with different dialects within the same language, and in one that word means straw and another one that means penis, right. And you're going, who's your audience? Like who's your audience? Yeah. Right. I still remember that my mom, I can hear her laughing when she tell the story where she was 16. So again, she's from Chile, but they're all Argentinian. So all her older brothers, because she's the baby, her older brothers and her parents are from Argentina that move over to Chile, and then she's born. So nothing like coming into your house all excited about, in this case, getting a job and telling your entire family, and in this case, not only your siblings that are all male, but also some cousins that are in town that are also all male, and saying the word like pinche, yo pinche, which means I got a job in Chile, but in Argentina, it means I had sex. And I was like, When she told me that story, I was like, oh, how are you still alive?
All the boys in the neighborhood are still alive.
I know, right? And I'm like, how did that know? How was that not another war?
Right. And so I love those things though, because you just miss out on all these potentially awesome jokes.
Yes, right.
All of the languages.
All the different languages. But you also like, okay, who's your audience? So I had to think about that sometimes. Like, okay, when it's saying certain words in English or Spanish now, I'm like, okay, what does that mean?
Right.
But having to overthink it, but so worth it when you say it right.
Right. Yeah, because my grandparents are ethnically Chinese. And so then they ran to Thailand, and my parents were born in like a small refugee camp like area in like southern Thailand. So they grew up with like a ton of refugees. And because of that, because, kids want to play and make friends, they just ended up learning like handfuls of languages. Like I think my mom knows 6 and my dad knew 5 or something like that. But just because you wanted to play with people.
Yes.
So, so you just like learn them. And because of that, and then they married each other. So then the jokes that they tell or the words that they say, like I get so confused because I don't know what language, okay, I know that's a swear word, but what language is it from? Or like, I know that's an idiom, but what language is that from? So I don't know. It's confusing, but but then they have, 5 or 6 times the options for jokes,
right?
Like the options for like hilarity.
Yes. Yeah. Or being very, very upset at you, but making it sound nice.
Exactly. No, yeah. I always, I understood them. I just didn't know which language to attribute it to.
Yeah. Or did you ever get in trouble for saying it in a specific word when in one language it's a curse word, in another language not so much?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, because it's more like curse words that are okay for boys to say, but not okay for girls to say. Things like that.
That was part of it too. That was part of it.
Totally,
yes.
Totally. Yes. Yeah, the gender thing is a whole different conversation.
Oh God, yeah. Oh yes. Yes, it is.
Yes.
But I remember sometimes hearing my dad say something, and I'm like, Dad, you said a bad word. And he goes, No, it's not a bad word. And then I'm like, blah, 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 to my mom. And they're like, stop saying that bad when Dad said it wasn't a bad word.
Right.
And then that's when I got the education where like, okay, dialect. And I'm like, oh. So then I would be like, who's in the room? Mom's in the room. I can't say that word.
Right.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Well,
you learn your boundaries.
You do. You learn them quick, and you learn to be observant in those areas of your, who's in the audience, literally, even if it's just an audience of one. You learn quickly how to say and what to say, not to say, and how to say it, because tone is also a huge thing in culture. Yeah. But hopefully you haven't given anything away, because I know that one of the things I love to do is play the game of 2 truths and a lie. And sometimes in conversations, you divulge something, and I'm like, and I'm like, let me see. So this is where you're going to tell us 3 things about yourself. I gave you homework. Did you get your homework done?
I did.
Good. Okay. Yes. Well, sometimes some people are good at on the spots. Most are not. So I'm going to give it to homework. So this is when you tell us 3 things about yourself, of which 2 are truth and 1's a lie. And we have to figure out which one's the lie. So whenever you're ready, you can tell us your 3 things.
I got sick on the It's a Small World ride. The next one is I was a newscaster. And the last one is I play the drums.
Mm.
Are you guessing?
Yes. I always say we, because I really wish and hope that the listeners are also playing along. Otherwise, it is just me, myself, and nobody else. And that's okay too, damn it.
It is okay.
It is okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's fine. And getting sick on It's a Small World ride in Disney, I can kind of see how that is, because for those that may not have ever been on this ride, it is a boat ride in water. There's not a huge wave, but sometimes there is a dip here and there. And if you get seasick and you're sensitive, you might. So that might be a possibility. And so the other options were you were a newscaster and that you play the drums. And this is all about the details. Because you guys are really good at this. They're like, yeah, I do play an instrument, but I think the drums, for an example.
I see.
Yeah. Let's see. So thick on It's a Small World, newscaster, or drums. Shit, I kind of want to say that the truth, rather the lie is that you play the drums.
Correct. I didn't do it right. I should have done it harder.
No, you did it
right. Yeah. I wish I played the drums.
Yeah. Well, the drums are not the easiest to play. There really isn't. And there's some folks out there that say I play the drums and like, no, boo, you don't, but I love you.
I wish I did. I'm very impressed by drum players, but yeah, I can't figure it out.
No, it's a lot of drum. It's a lot of rhythmy and also physicality. People don't realize. I'm like, oh, they're sitting down. I'm like, look, dude, there's a lot
four different things going on. No.
Yeah. And keeping pace. Yeah. And some drummers are now singers too. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Like at the same time as they're drumming. Like, dude.
Right. Yeah. That's a lot to juggle.
It is. So you got sick on It's a Small World?
I did. It wasn't, I do get kind of seasick, but not that seasick. Okay. It was because I went on one of those centrifuge rides just before. And I got, it was really, I shouldn't have, but I got on the ride sick. And then the bobbing up and down just put me over.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those rides that I tend to go on when it's really hot outside and I need to cool off. Because It's a Small World, after all, is the only thing that's said in this ride. But it's visually it's stunning. I think visually they've done a really good job of kind of like showcasing all the different cultures and worlds and different ethnicities that they have in there. But they need to work on the verbiage because it's a song that literally doesn't end. And it's the same verbiage over and over again. It's a small world after all. I mean, there's even a joke that I heard. Oh yeah, from an interpreter at Disney.
And then it just repeats.
Right. Well,
et cetera.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that, I took some, I had, technically a third language of mine is sign language, but I'm not fluent on it. So any opportunity that I had to take courses on it that ever has come up, I've taken more just to refresh and relearn. And there was an opportunity for me to take some sign language classes through Disney when I was working there. And one of the stories that this interpreter was telling us, so he is hearing, his brother is not. And that's how, we kind of get a little bit like, how did you get started conversation happening? And he said that he was so excited when his family came to visit him, including his friend, his brother. And they went on the ride, and this ride was It's a Small World. And when you are hard of hearing or deaf, we do have these devices that will, everything is written out, so electronically. And so they're on the ride, and, it's going on for a little bit. And the brother, jabs this guy's on the elbow, and he goes, I think my device is broken. And he goes, no, it's not.
Oh, sorry.
And then he kind of a little more on the ride. He goes, no, seriously. He's signing. I think my device is broken. And he's telling his brother who he's trying not to laugh because he knows what he was referring to. And he goes, no, it's not. It's not. He goes, it has to be broken. It's the same thing over and over and over again. It's a small world after all. It's a small world after all. He goes, yeah, that's the song. I was like, oh, that's so bad. Like, it's not broken device. There's no glitch in the issue. This is what he goes like, welcome to my world. I'm hearing it.
Right.
It's so bad. I know, but I was like, yeah. Okay. And then you did work as a newscaster.
I did. Yeah. It was an English language channel in Bangkok for a little bit. Yeah. It was really fun.
Yeah, you had fun. It's good.
Yeah.
Having fun when you're working is important. Sometimes always the case, but to find those moments is good. That's good. Well, thank you for playing with me. It was a good one.
Thank you. Well, it wasn't good enough.
No, no, you did good. I have this thing where I can figure it out. Sometimes it's all in the details. Sometimes like I've realized sometimes when they've given and too much information, that's probably the lie. Other times when it's the more simplest one, that could be the lie. So it's a lot of like body language, virtually. Yeah. But also y'all have gotten some really good ones where it's like really detailed on all three of them and potentially to happen possibilities are 100%. And you've gotten me a few times, so you're good. It's always good.
So the next time I do this, I'm gonna ask. I'm gonna call you up for some coffee or something, and you can help me come up with some that will stump somebody else.
Yes, totally. Yes, definitely, for sure. Before we go, tell us what you're currently working on and what is coming up next for you that you can share.
I am currently prepping for a gorgeous, let me say like domestic suspense. It's like time travel and suspense. Yeah, mystery. Yeah, it's very, very cool. But that's one I can't talk about. Cannot. I mean, the ones that are out now are coming out soon. January 2nd is Lisa Yee's The Misfits, book 1. Super fun YA. I adore it. And then another one, rom-com with banter that I love, Jennifer Chen's Artifacts of an Ex. So both of them, very, very cool.
Nice.
And that one's also January 2nd.
Yes. I like that, Artifacts of an Ex. Thinking about those boxes.
Yeah, exactly.
The burn party type.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Those all sound fun. Yeah, you have a bunch that are up for pre-order. I'm looking at it now. Death by Demo. That's interesting. A home renovation mystery book.
Yeah, that's a cozy.
Yeah. I'm just going, I may want to hold off on that project. I was thinking.
Yeah.
And there's a Misfit, the Royal Conundrum. Yeah, it's always great. I love it when you can see in advance, but I also love it that you were sharing us that it's a domestic suspense time traveler mystery, because I understand not being able to tell us what the topic or rather the title of it is or anything like that, but I love those little hints that you guys can give. So that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's fun. You sound like you had fun recording these two anyway, so that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being my guest and hanging out with me. It's been so much fun.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
For those that are not following Cindy yet on social media, I'm going to make sure to include all her links within the post for this episode over at Viviana Enchantress of Books. So you guys can follow and not have to go hunting for them. And until next time, happy listenings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of our Audiobook Lovin Podcast Patreon. The Audiobook Lovin Podcast has special Patreon access levels. Join today to receive benefits including early access to episodes, shout-outs, special exclusive content, and much more. Support the podcast by becoming a Patreon at www.patreon.com/audiobookloving. We thank you for your support.
Thank you for joining us on the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, hosted by Viviana, Enchantress of Books. For links and more information discussed in today's episode, previous podcasts, or the Audiobook Lovin Series, please visit our website, vivianaenchantressofbooks.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a positive review wherever you listen to our podcast. Until next time, happy listening.